Aileen Wuornos. This name evokes one of the most complex, tragic, and disturbing figures in American criminal history. One of the few women known to be a serial killer, her life and crimes defied simple categorizations, provoking deep debates about the nature of violence, the impact of trauma, and the failures of a system. Far beyond the shocking count of her victims, Wuornos' case became a study in abuse and the intricate relationship between mental health and criminal behavior. She is a dark mirror reflecting society's shadows and the abysses of the human mind. Aileen Carol Pittman was born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan, in a leap year into an extraordinarily uncommon life. Her arrival in the world was already marked by dysfunctionality and abandonment. Her biological father, a diagnosed pedophile and schizophrenic, was imprisoned and would later commit suicide in jail. Her mother, a young teenager, gave her up for adoption just a few months after birth. As she had done with her older brother, Keith. The responsibility for Aileen and Keith fell to their maternal grandparents, Laurie and Britta Wuornos. However, what should have been a safe haven turned into an equally toxic and abusive environment. Aileen, from a very young age, was a victim of repeated sexual abuse by her grandfather. Reports describe a childhood without structure, marked by shouting, fighting, and the constant presence of alcohol. School offered no refuge. Aileen struggled with learning and behavior, constantly feeling displaced and unloved. At age 11, a tragedy, she began prostituting herself in exchange for cigarettes and small amounts of money, a practice driven by her own need and exploitation. At 14, Aileen's life suffered another devastating blow when she became pregnant. The baby was immediately given up for adoption, without support, expelled from home by her grandfather, and with no prospect of a different future. Aileen dropped out of school and plunged headfirst into a marginalized existence. This life on the streets of prostitution, addiction, and constant threat was the cauldron in which the desperate woman, and finally the serial killer, was forged. She lived a brutal reality where survival was the only rule, and it was between 1989 and 1990 that Florida became the scene of a series of murders that would catapult her to notoriety. Aileen Wuornos, who then roamed the highways, living off prostitution and petty theft, was responsible for the deaths of 7 men. Her victims were mostly truck drivers or middle-aged men who approached her on the road. Before we continue, please like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us reach more and more people. The chronology and nature of her crimes are cruel. Richard Mallory, in 1989, the electronics store owner, was her first victim. Wuornos would claim he had raped her, and that she acted in self-defense. The body was found days later, with multiple gunshot wounds. Then came David Spears. In June 1990, a rodeo operator was found dead. Charles Cascadden, a former police chief, whose body was discovered in August 1990, after Peter Seams, a retired merchant marine. Although his body was never recovered, his car was found abandoned, and Wuornos would later confess to his murder. This case was crucial for the investigation. Troy Burris, a sausage salesman, found lifeless in September 1990. Charles Dick Humphreys, a private detective and prison counselor, also found in September 1990. Walter Geno Antonio, a truck driver, was Wuornos' last known victim, found in November 1990. Wuornos' modus operandi was remarkably consistent. Generally, she would meet victims on the roadside, accept a ride or a sexual service. After the encounter, or during an altercation, she would use a firearm to kill her victims, often with multiple shots. She would then steal their belongings, such as wallets, weapons, and any valuable items she could use or sell to support herself and her lifestyle and her partner. Tyria Moore, the brutality of the crimes and the fact that a woman committed such acts shocked public opinion and investigators, who were accustomed to the predominantly male profile of serial killers. The hunt for Aileen Wuornos was initially slow and frustrating. Florida police linked the cases through ballistic evidence and patterns in the location of bodies and vehicles. The discovery of Peter Seams' car, which contained Wuornos and Tyria Moore's fingerprints, was the turning point. The investigation gained momentum when detectives focused on Tyria Moore, Wuornos' partner and alleged accomplice. Police contacted Moore, who, under threat of being charged as an accomplice, agreed to cooperate. In January 1991, Aileen was finally located and arrested at a diner in Volusia County, Florida. She had been approached for a minor charge, but police quickly realized who she truly was. After her arrest, and through a series of recorded phone conversations between Aileen and Tyria Moore with police cooperation, Aileen began to confess to the murders. Her confessions were erratic, sometimes mixing facts with delusions, but she admitted to killing all 7 men. Initially, she vehemently insisted that all the murders were in self-defense, claiming that the victims sexually assaulted her or tried to kill her. However, as the confessions progressed, some of her narratives became more incriminating and difficult to sustain as pure self-defense. The complexity of her mind and the allegations of her abusive past began to emerge. Aileen Wuornos' first trial was for the murder of Richard Mallory. In 1992, her defense team argued that she was a victim who acted to survive a violent sexual assault. However, the prosecution presented a strong case, highlighting that Mallory had no history of sexual violence and that Aileen shot him multiple times, which seemed to exceed self-defense. The physical evidence, including forensic evidence and Wuornos' own confessions, weighed against her. The jury found her guilty of first-degree murder, and she was sentenced to death. After this first conviction, Aileen made a series of legal choices that shocked many. She pleaded guilty to the other 6 murders to expedite the process and supposedly avoid more stressful trials, hoping this might spare Tyria Moore from charges. Although she later tried to withdraw some of these confessions, the convictions stood, and she received multiple death sentences. During her long years on death row, Aileen Wuornos underwent various psychiatric evaluations. The diagnoses were varied and often conflicting. Some experts pointed to borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and at times, elements of psychosis, possibly delusional. The question of her mental sanity for execution became a central point of legal, ethical, and public controversy, raising the debate about whether an individual with such severe mental problems should face capital punishment. Over more than a decade on death row, Aileen Wuornos' lawyers filed numerous appeals. They questioned the validity of her confessions, claiming she was coerced or was not mentally stable enough to understand them. There were also questions about the effectiveness of her legal representation in previous trials and, persistently, about her mental competency to face execution. The defense argued that she was delusional and did not fully comprehend the reality of her situation. However, in 2002, then Florida Governor Jeb Bush signed the execution order for Aileen Wuornos. Despite last-minute appeals from anti-death penalty activists and renewed intense media attention, the execution proceeded. Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection. On October 9, 2002, her last words are often quoted and remained enigmatic, with reports stating she said, "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the Lord and I'll be back." The case of Aileen Wuornos continues to resonate for several important reasons. The female serial killer. She broke the mold of the typical serial killer, challenging the perception that only men could commit such crimes, and spurring studies on female psychology and crime. Victim of society versus predator. Her brutal childhood story raised questions about the role of neglect and abuse in shaping a criminal, without, however, excusing her actions. She became a symbol of the complex debate between being a victim and a perpetrator. Aileen Wuornos remains a tragic and complex figure, a product of a life marked by extreme adversities that, tragically, culminated in a series of crimes. Her legacy forces us to confront the harsh realities of trauma, mental illness, marginalization, and the limits and dilemmas of the justice system. A story that, due to its dark depth, continues to haunt us and make us think. Her case became a watershed for the anti-death penalty movement, especially regarding the execution of individuals with a history of severe mental illness. Her life and crimes have been the subject of multiple documentaries, books, and, notably, the acclaimed 2003 film Monster, which earned Charlize Theron an Oscar for Best Actress for her powerful and visceral portrayal of one. So, what did you think of this account of Aileen Wuornos' complex case? Leave your comment below, like this video if it brought new perspectives on the case. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next true crime content, and share it with everyone interested in criminology and challenging stories. Your interaction helps us continue unraveling intriguing cases for you. Until next time.